Hello, Facebook family. It's me, Shannon LaBruyere. I am live and loving it tonight. It is Sunday, August 4th. It is 6:59 p.m. Paul, already jumping on. I love it. Yeah, it is time for Sunday Night Live, where I help equip you to thrive in change. It sometimes feels impossible, but it isn't. I promise it is not just possible, it is virtually guaranteed if you approach change in life with a mindset that allows you to be resilient instead of rigid. Okay, Barbara, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for jumping on. Welcome, everybody. Before we jump into tonight's topic, which will be about our third response option, we've talked about yes, we've talked about no, and tonight we're going to talk about maybe. Before we get too far into that, I want to invite you as my loyal Sunday Night Live viewers. I would like to invite you to be part of the Leading Others Mastermind Group. It starts on August 10th, which is a Saturday. It's done right here on Facebook Live, just like we're doing now, except for there's more interaction. There's some Q&A. We talk about some really great stuff. It's private. It's authentic. There's motivation, inspiration, accountability, and it all happens right here on Saturday mornings, 3 in August, the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th. If you would like to take your leadership to the next level, if you're looking around at the people that you're trying to influence and you see that nobody's following you, this might be the place for you. You can jump in with some really great other people who believe that leadership is important, believe that we can raise our leadership lid so we don't keep smacking our head doing the same thing over and over, right? People who believe that it's good to grow, but that think different thoughts and come at it from a different perspective. It's so powerful to hear other people share their leadership truths, their leadership experiences. It's just a powerful thing. If you've never been part of a mastermind, I invite you to consider jumping in to the Leading Others Mastermind. It's $25, which is affordable. It is affordable. 2 lunches at Panera Bread cost you $25. Pack a peanut butter and jelly sandwich Tuesday and Thursday. You'll be able to join this mastermind. Excuse me, let me get a drink here. All right, if you're interested in the Leading Others Mastermind, all you have to do is drop a comment that says, hey, I'm interested, and I'll send you the info. You can also see it at my Thrive in Change Facebook page, Thrive in Change with Shannon LaBruyere. All right, welcome, Luke. I'm so glad you're here. Great to have you all, and it is time to get started on tonight's topic, which is maybe. Maybe is the possibility word. It's really, really useful, and I think it would be ill-advised for me to leave you all with this impression that every time you're presented with an option, you have to either say yes or no. It's not always as clear-cut as that, right? And so when we open up our toolbox to include a word like maybe, I think it is valuable, but we also have to use that tool with intention. So let's talk a little bit tonight about how to use the word maybe. So just so you know, we are not going to go through an exhaustive list of when using maybe is okay. So if you're checking boxes right now, this isn't probably going to work for you. But we can explore a little bit some of the principles that are at work when we're using the word maybe, and we're using it in a way that is going to help us, not hurt us. All right, so the first one I want to talk about is when to use maybe. When you don't have all the information, right? Question: do you want to help me move? Answer: maybe. Are you moving to another continent? Right? I need a little more information. Last time you moved, my friend, you moved to Australia, and that was a long way for me to take a truck. When we need more information, absolutely 100% a-okay to say maybe, because it depends. There are so many things in our businesses, in our homes, in our lives that depend on other things. So maybe is absolutely 100% appropriate to use when you need more information. Question: do you want to be promoted to lead manager? Answer: maybe. What happened to the other lead manager? Appropriate question, right? Missy, welcome. That's an appropriate question. Yeah, maybe I want to get that promotion. Hi, Carol. Maybe I want that promotion, but I need some more information. What happened to the other lead manager? You know, you just might find out by saying maybe, getting a little bit more information, that the former manager left because they were underpaid and overworked and they had unreasonable expectations placed on them. This would be useful. Good evening, Carol. So glad you jumped in. So when you need more information, 100% say maybe. 100% appropriate. All right, so another time that it's really, really useful to use the word maybe is when you already have all of the info, but you want time to reflect. And this is especially true when somebody is pressuring you to make a decision. Yeah, I don't know if you're like this, but when I'm talking with somebody who's pushing me to decide right now, and it's not a life or death decision, it's we've got a few days or a few weeks to work this out kind of a decision, that kind of pressure makes me want to just knee-jerk react and say, no, nope. But that's not always the best answer. It's just the answer I'm most comfortable with when I'm under pressure. So when you've got all the information that you need, if you want time to reflect, it is 100% advisable to say, maybe I want to do that. Maybe I want to make that decision, but I need a little time to reflect. So now that you know everything that this job entails, I'm going to get you set up to be our volunteer coordinator. Welcome aboard. And the hand goes out. Whoa, maybe I'll do that. Sounds like a good idea, but let me consider how that works with all my other responsibilities, right? You've done that before. Just, whoa, wait a second. Maybe I'll be able to do it. I think I'd like to do it. I want to make sure it aligns with all my other priorities. Absolutely a great way to use the word maybe, right? Absolutely. Or maybe, possibly, there are other people involved who will be affected. So somebody might want that answer right away, but hey, maybe I'll adopt that Great Dane, but I'm going to run that by my husband first. Perfect example of how to use the word maybe. Yes, it's going to impact other people. So no matter how much you might want to say yes, it is appropriate to say, maybe I do. I need to run this through some other people who are involved. Run this by other folks that are affected. When we have a tendency to be decisive, black and white decision makers, yes, absolutely. No, absolutely not. Always, never. Maybe is really important for us to embrace. Possibly, maybe. Let me think it through. Let me talk to some other people. Totally appropriate. Those are very, very good reasons to use the word maybe. Maybe is not a bad word, except for this. And this is where I want to spend the bulk of my conversation with you tonight. When we use the word maybe instead of using the word no, When we say maybe, but we really mean no, we are disrespecting ourselves. And just as importantly, we're disrespecting the person that we're saying that to. We are not being upfront with them. We are not going to get what we want working with others. We are not going to be effective leaders. We are not going to be trusted if we use the word maybe when we really mean no. And in my experience, that is the time I want to use it the most. Yep, Carol's hearing it. All right, so I can remember way back when I was a teenager and a young man asked me on a date. And I said, maybe. I didn't say maybe because I needed more information. I didn't say maybe because I needed to run it by somebody, because at that time I was in charge of myself. I said maybe because I didn't want to hurt his feelings and say no. When we use maybe, when we really mean no, what we do is and we know this to be true, you've done it yourself. You've said maybe. You've said maybe when somebody asked you on a date, or they asked you to go to a party and you weren't sure you were going to even want to go. So you said, maybe I'll be there. When we aren't honest about our maybe, when we use it instead of no, what we do is we extend the agony. We extend the agony. When I didn't tell that young man, I appreciate you asking me, but no, I'd rather not. And do that with respect and kindness. It would have been uncomfortable at the time, but I'll tell you what was more uncomfortable. It was more uncomfortable to be getting a phone call from that young man every day for 2 weeks that I took the phone off the hook. This is way back in the day, you guys. Those of you who are young, who are watching, you'll know. We had phones. Our way of turning off our ringer was taking the phone off the hook. Weeks. I took the phone off the hook when I got home from school because he kept calling. Oh my gosh. It was brutal for me. I was suffering, but it was brutal for him. It wasn't respectful. It wasn't honest, right? Somebody's hearing me. Yeah, when we say maybe, when we really mean no, we cause ourselves a lot of pain. We suck a lot of our energy. It's indecisive because essentially what we're doing is deciding not to decide. And what have we talked about when it comes to deciding not to decide? What that really means is, I've decided, right? Deciding not to decide is a decision. So when we say maybe, when we really mean no, we are delaying the inevitable. We are disrespecting the person that we're talking to because we prevent them from pursuing other options. That's not kind. That's not acting with integrity. But we also send a really dangerous message to ourselves, and that is we're not in charge of us. When we can't just say what we mean with kindness, and we resort to using a stall tactic like, maybe I'll do it, what we're really saying is, I don't have the courage of my convictions. I don't have the self-discipline to be able to follow through. Hi, Bermuda Bob, I'm so glad you're here. Is the excuse the reason, or is the reason the excuse? Yeah, reasons and excuses, right? Reasons and excuses. When we say maybe and we really mean no, we are making excuses, Bob, for ourselves that allow us to not take responsibility for our decisions. And that, from a self-leadership perspective, is really dangerous. And from a leading others perspective is really dangerous. I often use examples from when my children were young. Hi, Michelle, I'm glad you jumped in. I often use examples from when my children were young because I feel like children often, they're people, and I think adults, we still operate and think the same ways a lot of times. I think the principles that we see when we're dealing with children can really help us when we're adults. So I'm not trying to minimize the decisions we make as adults, but I do think that sometimes using our kids as examples makes it a little easier to see what's going on. And years ago, when my daughter was about 7, she wanted to go spend the night at a pajama party with friends. And she asked me, and I said, maybe. And then she asked me again, and I said, maybe. And then she asked me again, and I said, maybe. Now, as a parent, you might have been in this boat. I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to send her, which meant I didn't want to send her. I didn't want her to go. I wasn't sure I knew this family enough. I didn't want her to spend the night away. I had all these reasons. She finally came up to me, and this was how wonderful she was. She finally came up to me and said, Mom, if you don't tell me that I can go, I'm going. As if she could make that happen. Now, of course, she wasn't going to be able to go, but I was able to see her frustration. I kept putting it off, not deciding. Pretty soon it was going to be too late for her to go, and she knew the decision was made, so she felt like she had to force the issue. I don't know if you've ever worked with any employees like that. Can I have the day off? Can I have the day off? Can I have the day off? Maybe, until finally it's too late. They couldn't honor the commitment. They already RSVP'd. You didn't say no, but you lost their respect because you couldn't say no. You said maybe, and you left them hanging. It's such a trust eroder. I don't know if that's a great term, but you know what I'm saying. It erodes their trust. It erodes the people that we want to be able to follow us and trust us. It erodes their ability to know where they stand because we say maybe instead of saying no. So those are the simple, I don't know if they're that simple, but those are some of the simple ways we can look at maybe. I have to give my husband Ken credit for tonight's little, I don't know even what I want to call it. It's not really a lesson. Tonight's conversation. Because he said, you've talked about yes and you've talked about no. What about maybe? And I asked him some of the reasons he uses maybe, and he is a business leader. So he's usually got a board of people that report to him, and then they've got managers and supervisors. So he's got a great, what do you call it? He's got a tree, an organizational chart that people follow when he's working. And he said that a lot of times he uses maybe because he wants to buy a little time for reflection, even if he's not the one who needs to reflect. So I had to give that some thought. And I wonder if you've ever come up against something like that, where somebody comes to you and asks you, maybe they report to you, maybe it's your child, like my daughter, Emma, I'm so glad you're here, welcome. So you may have run up against something like that where somebody asks you, should I do this? Should I make this decision? Should I handle this dilemma a certain way? And you feel like you know what the answer is, but you say, maybe. And it opens up the door for them to start considering. As leaders, as heads of households, as people who are out maybe volunteering. Hi, Pam, I'm glad you're here. We can use maybe in an intentional way. We need more information. We have to run it by somebody else. We know that there's places or people that are also involved that we need to make sure that they're on the same page. But we can also use that technique, the maybe, to allow the person that we're dealing with some time to reflect. Ask them some questions. Well, maybe that would be a good thing. Tell me why you think it is. Maybe that would be a great thing. Tell me why you think it's not. Use the maybe in an intentional way. Pamela, I'm so glad you're here. So I thought that was an interesting take on the maybe from somebody who's used to leading leaders. And that is to use it as a way to help them to dig a little deeper and reflect. So that's all I have about maybe, folks. Maybe this is going to be a short Sunday Night Live. Maybe you'll go and use the opportunity to get ice cream. Maybe you'll decide to go to bed a little earlier. But what I really hope you'll do is use this information to reflect. How do you use maybe? Are you using it intentionally because you really do need to have some extra time to reflect? And one other thing I want to put out there for you to consider, do you use maybe as a way to avoid making a decision? Or do you use it as a way to buy yourself time, but you don't put a deadline on it? It's no good to say, maybe I'll want that job, I'll get back to you, and then you just never get back to them, or you get back to them in 6 months and they needed to know in 2 weeks, right? Thanks, Carol. So yeah, when we're thinking about how we're using the word maybe, let me encourage you, put a deadline on it. Don't allow yourself to reflect on something for 2 weeks when it really only requires 2 hours or 2 days, or sometimes it only takes 2 minutes. We just have to think it through just a little. If you're going to use maybe intentionally, make sure you don't let it go too long. Put a deadline on yourself with it. Maybe, and then I'll get back to you tomorrow, or I'll get back to you next week, or I'll let you know what my wife says or my husband says, right? That's treating people with respect. That's using maybe in an intentional way. So I just wonder, does anybody have anything you want to say about maybe? How do you use maybe? Do you use it often, or are you one of these people who's very black and white? Absolutely not. I have a relative who's like that. Absolutely not. Or 100% no. And there doesn't seem to be a maybe ever. I'm not sure how well that serves them. How do you use the maybe? And do you rely on it instead of saying the brave and intentional no? Just curious. That's all I've got, you guys. This was a short one tonight, but I'm really honored that you jumped in. Thank you so much for being here. Pam Pacheco. Pam P. That's the first time I've said your last name out loud, so I hope I got it right. I'm really glad you guys jumped on. So glad to have you with me. I'm looking forward to any of you who want to grow as a leader, jumping in on the Leading Others Mastermind. I'd love to have you. And I'm looking forward to meeting you next week with something else that will help us to all thrive and change so we can jump into Mondays with enthusiasm, with purpose, with intention. It's going to be great. Let's see. Carol says, I think people feel like they are insignificant in our life if we don't get back with them with some answer. A lot of times I have to say, I will pray on it. Yeah. Wow, Carol, that's profound. That's absolutely true, right? If we're not respectful of those people and treat them with the kindness that acknowledging that they're waiting gives them, if we're not kind to them that way, I can see how it does hurt people. And you know what? That phrase, I'll pray about it. I'm a Christian, and so I am highly involved in the Christian faith community. And I think that we sometimes say, I'll pray about it without actually praying about it. It's another way to say maybe. It's another way to say no without saying no. And wow, what a disrespect to the power of prayer that is, right? So thanks for sharing that. I love it. And Pam has told me how to say her last name, Pacheco. Oh, I love it. Pam Pacheco. That's easy. Thank you, Pam. Anybody else? That maybe. How have you abused it in the past? You want to hear one more story? We got a few minutes. Hey, Vincent Lopez. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to share one more story about my darling daughter, Olivia, when she was little, and I said maybe. When she was 6 years old, first grade, she asked me if she could have a birthday party, and I said maybe. And then she asked me again and again and again, and I kept saying maybe, and I kept saying maybe. And then I got a phone call from a parent who said, Shannon, I'm RSVPing to a birthday invitation. I said, really? She goes, yeah, a birthday invitation? Looks like maybe Olivia did it herself. She did. She had taken paper and written out birthday invitations. She put a day. It was going to be this Saturday. She said it was going to be at noon. She passed them out to all her friends. She figured if mom said maybe and I hadn't gotten back to her, I must have meant yes, and she was plowing forward. A woman of action, and she's still that way. So yeah, that maybe. Sometimes you can save yourself a lot of trouble if you just say yes or no, because you'll know what to expect. And in case you wondered, I did allow her to have her birthday party. I told her, you know what? I needed to get back to you a little quicker. We needed to decide this a little bit more concretely. So how do you want to run your party? Oh, Paul says, okay, so now I'm accountable. Oh, yeah, you are accountable, Paul. You're accountable to yourself, and you're accountable to us. You're among friends. Yeah, that may be excuse. Use it intentionally. It's so valuable. But when we misuse it, it erodes people's confidence in us, right? So thank you all for being here. Mwah. I'm so glad you jumped on. If you came on at the tail end, feel free to go up and watch from the top and work your way down. I would love it. Or if you would like to catch it later, by Wednesday, it'll be posted on my YouTube channel. Let me see. Missy loves the advice. Maybe she'll have a deadline. She loves it. Yeah, that deadline is important. And honoring the deadline, right? Not just saying, I'll get back with you sometime and not doing it, but I'll get back with you Tuesday and then actually following through, which is one of the most respectful and trust fostering actions we can ever do, is keeping our word. When we tell somebody, I'll pray for you, and then we actually do it. When we say, I'll let you know, and we do, right? Isabel, so glad you jumped on. We are wrapping up our discussion about the word maybe, but you have not missed everything. All is not lost. All you have to do is pop up to the top of this and watch the video from the get-go, and you'll catch all the good stuff we've been talking about. You guys are great. Thank you for this time together, and I look forward to seeing you. If I don't pop in through the week on Facebook Live, I'll for sure be here next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Can't wait to see you. Mwah! Bye.